Good morning. Good morning, boys and girls, parents, teachers, leaders, people in general. Good morning. Welcome. It's Monday. Today is day number 8 of our journey into really understanding creative emotional intelligence. The first week, literally, we spent talking about just change and how our brain works. Into this week, I think it's important that we now start getting into what is creative emotional intelligence and what are its basics. So for the most essential basic, which is what's the difference between feelings and emotions, according to creative emotional intelligence. So let's explore that because I think that's going to give us a lot of understanding. So creative emotional intelligence. So the question is, what is the difference between feelings and emotions? I want you to take, just take maybe 30 seconds on your own and see what you can come up with. It's kind of a difficult question, right? For some people, maybe more than others. I think if we were to get all of you that are watching right now, or that would watch maybe at one instance with maybe another instance, and kind of bring everybody into a Zoom conference, and I were to ask this question, we usually get all different kinds of answers. We get answers like, feelings is my reaction to my emotions. We get answers like, they're the same thing. We get answers that say, I don't know. We get answers that say, I feel feelings and my emotion is how I react to them, which is a good answer. But under the context of creative emotional intelligence, we are here to really use our feelings in the most creative way possible. And so the outcome, the end result of creative emotional intelligence is to create. And so just like Albert Einstein, he would take the fundamentals. He was like, okay, so I know that the speed of light travels at 186,000 miles per second. Got that. And I know that gravity is a force, right? I throw something up and I know it comes down. And I know that if I'm in a train going at the speed of light one way, and then another train is going at the speed of light in the opposite way, I know that at different points, we would find different spaces. We would find different proportions of different spaces. Why do I bring Albert Einstein up? Because he had to discover the theory of relativity, which is why we have satellites, why we have internet, why we understand how the world functions in proportion to space and time. That allows us to really be able to do this right now. So thanks to Albert Einstein. So let's talk about him. He didn't follow what was already there. In emotional intelligence, if we just take the creative part out, and we talk about emotional intelligence, anybody in psychology or in psychiatry or in emotional intelligence, at the level of thinking, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we are creating different approach. But emotional intelligence, at the level of thinking, they're going to say feelings is basically sensory input, and your emotion is a thought that you create. And that's good for emotional intelligence as a thought. We at Creative Emotional Intelligence, we're not so interested in just the thinking. We are completely concerned with the feeling. with this. With the stuff that's so basic, like Albert Einstein, he would say, okay, got it, that's basic, I can work with that. But if there was some mathematician that explained something a certain way, Albert Einstein was like, you know what? No, I'm not going to go there. Because what Albert Einstein did know is that when he sat down to play his piano and to create and to express and to feel and to get into the granular experience of his feelings, he was moved on the inside in a different way. And as the founder and creator of Creative Emotional Intelligence, I am too. It's just something about people with deep connection to feeling and creation. They have to move in ways that are authentic to basic principles. So in a very basic way, Albert Einstein also says that if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So let's make this real simple. According to Creative Emotional Intelligence, we're going to break it down simply. Feelings are on the inside. And you guessed it, emotions are on the outside. Is that simple enough? Finally someone just explains it simply. And that helps us because now we can be accountable for what we experience on the inside and what we're doing on the outside. So parents, this is really good for you because it gives you an ability to actually teach your child, and maybe even yourselves too, because you weren't given a class. You get to uncover what's going on emotionally, and then you get to really start thinking about how you want that to come across. Because usually if there's no space between these, they kind of mesh together, and if I'm angry, I'll throw a table. Or if I'm deeply sad, I'm just going to start crying and dive into my room and avoid the world for a week. No, guys. That's the creature brain. So if you were with us yesterday in the last 3 days, that's the creature brain. We are creators. We are here to literally transform into a new understanding so that we can apply our feelings instead of letting those feelings take over. We are creators. We are made in the image of our Creator. Our Creator creates. And if He too, or she, I don't know, depending on however you look at it, I'm very open-minded. I love Christ. But if He, let's just call it He, if He creates, and we're made in the image of the Creator, because animals can't think of God, dolphins, they don't have language. So ultimately we know that language is here to help us. And so this is language. Separating feelings by knowing they're on the inside and emotions on the outside. Separating feelings from being on the inside and emotions being on the outside, then now we have to understand that we have to become emotional scientists. And the greatest minds in emotional intelligence advocate for the same thing, to become an emotional scientist, and that's great. But you know what Albert Einstein says? He says that the greatest scientists are artists. And he says that all great science comes from an intuitive notion, meaning you know something, but you don't quite know why you know it. Moms, I'm sure you can relate, maybe even some fathers too that are very connected to their kids. Something happens to your children and they lost something, comes to ask you for it, and you don't even know how you know. You just say, check under your bedroom because it's over there in the top left corner of the bottom shoe. And you don't even remember being there, but intuitively you know because you know, right? And so there's more. There's more than just thoughts. There is feelings and we need to acknowledge them. And now we just need a simple way to understand that our feelings are on the inside, and now we have to dive a little deeper. So if you were with us for the last few days, and if you haven't, please go back to the last videos. We went through the different brains. We went through the reptilian brain. We went through the mammalian brain, which helps us understand what we feel. The black one tells us basically it doesn't even understand itself. And then the neocortex brain, which is our ability to start now creating new emotions. And that's what emotions are. We can create them. But in order to create them, we have to start practicing a new kind of present. We have to let go of what we did in the past. We have to literally become learners. We have to literally open our minds and say, if I'm alive, I'm here to learn. Simple as that. If I'm alive, I haven't figured out everything. So if I can learn something new that is interesting, I want to learn. And that gives us an opportunity to open our minds, and at that point you give yourself permission. You basically are giving yourself consent. You're saying, I want to learn more about my feelings from somebody that has spent 40,000 hours with his feelings in creation and has produced music for huge artists, but that doesn't matter. The point is that I have to be pretty good at knowing what I'm doing if I became successful in it. But more importantly, because I'm a former Marine, I have been diagnosed with chronic depression. I have been diagnosed with general anxiety disorder. I have been diagnosed with PTSD and stressor-related disorder and many other things. So I am one of very few people in the world that has overcome depression and has overcome anxiety, because I have such a deep connection to my feelings that whenever they trigger me, I know exactly what emotions to practice. And I have so many choices, I feel free. Because we know that when we don't have choices, what do we feel? Stress. And what is stress? Stress is our brain's inability to predict exactly what it's feeling. You ever felt like you're feeling 100 different things? It would be nice if your brain can name them, but if it cannot, it's stuck with the feeling of intensity and it's completely shut out of itself because it doesn't have words. So, where we start off tomorrow, we're going to begin talking a little bit more about, how we need to process feelings on the inside, because this is going to give us the cues for each individual person that has their own disposition. Feelings are subjective. One person's angry may be another person's sad. And it may, what makes you happy may make another person mad. So this is a very personalized experience, right? And so with the tools that I'm going to be sending, right now we're just doing the education. We're trying to build a community. Once we have a good community and people are asking us questions and we have more traction, then I think we'll have time to actually get everybody on board at the same time so we can do an onboarding process together. That's going to be the only way where we'll be able to actually come together as a community and start exploring and experimenting and experiencing this new process of self-discovery, where I can literally learn to take my feelings and instead of just feeling them and then thinking, and then not even my brain has a thought for the feeling, so it's stuck. It's like, wait a minute. Through creative emotional intelligence, I can separate the two now. And I can become responsible on the inside and accountable on the outside, which is what emotional intelligence advocates, right? It's responsibility with yourself and accountability with yourself and responsibility with yourself, meaning inside and outside, and then also with others. At the level of thinking, at the level of control, at the level of acting accordingly, being considerate, being kind, of performing in a social environment. But what we're looking at in the next 10 years, into 2030, the top soft skill that is being in highest demand, the top 3 soft skills are creativity. That's number 1. Look it up. Go to Forbes and type Google 2030 top soft skills. 8 out of the 10 pages you find, you're going to see creativity is number 1. You're going to find emotional intelligence is number 2 or 3. And you're going to find critical thinking, because this requires critical thinking. And no more important critical thinking than to us learn ourselves, because in every, whether it's the Bible, the Quran, the Greek, Roman, backgrounds, whether it's in everyone says know yourself, know thyself. Even Jesus said it. He says before you point at the split in another, take the shank out of your own eye. And that's basically us taking responsibility for ourselves. That's what we're here to do. Because now we're learning something more about feelings and emotions from the structure of life over the last, 20, maybe 2,000 to 20 to 30,000 years of evolution. Where we can really get to the bottom of a lot of things, because there are some people that have walked so far ahead of us and they're willing to come back and teach us. And I just happen to be that person. As a former United States Marine, I know what it's like to take initiative. Clearly, this is what we're doing. I know what it's like to have courage and to face adversity and still do what needs to get done. And I also know what it's like to have integrity, which is doing the right thing when no one's looking. I don't know if there's one person looking at us. I don't know if there's 100 people looking at us. I'm not concerned. What I care about is simply expressing to people, helping them understand that if they're feeling emotionally overwhelmed and that they're feeling stressed out emotionally, and if they're feeling ambivalent, meaning feeling good and bad at the same time, and if you're just stuck with all of these feelings, and maybe because you don't know what to do, you drink, or you do drugs, or you yell at people, or you have toxic emotions, which we're going to get into in this week as well. And you know that you're hurting the people you love and that you're making your world a smaller place instead of a more loving place. You know that you're maybe stuck more in the fear, in the critter brain, thinking everything is a threat, instead of the creator brain where it says, wait a minute, my feelings are seeds, and if I just simply start looking on the inside and start finding the different kinds of seeds, because an orange seed does not produce a banana. No, an orange seed produces an orange, a banana produces a banana, and we have hundreds of thousands of different fruits. Maybe different colorful ones too, just like feelings. Because God, He reflects Himself in so many beautiful ways. So on the inside we have fruits and vegetables of all different kinds of colors, but if we don't know and we only think that there's only an apple and a banana and an orange, you know, those three are very sweet and you might get diabetes. When if you love fruits, you could be eating berries, which are not as sweet, and you can still enjoy fruits. But if you don't know that they're inside of you as those seeds, then we're here to expand our vision like the Creator would have us do. You know, be ye therefore perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. And if He's the Creator, what else are we here to do, guys? We're here simply to create. And that's what the world of the future looks like. You know, creativity is in demand because innovation has to happen. We have to find new ways to take care of our planet. We have to find new ways to take care of our streets. We have to find new ways to feel. If you notice, this coronavirus, it's displacing a lot of what was old, but making room for a lot of the new. People are working out in their balconies. People are buying bikes like crazy. People are walking. People are feeling again. And it's so funny that we are also doing what we're doing today in the realm of feeling, and we've been doing this since 2013. It's taken us 6 years to evolve to be able to explain this step by step so that we could be with you here today. So it is the glory of God. Once again, I always praise, you know, the Lord, our Jesus Christ, simply because through Him, you know, we're given so much opportunity to continue to evolve and to learn, and this is what He would have. Ultimately, the goal of creative emotional intelligence is that of the Holy Spirit, which is self-control. If you know yourself and you can control yourself, then you can create. And if you can create, you have unlimited opportunities. It doesn't matter if you're 30, it doesn't matter if you're 40, it doesn't matter if you're 60, it doesn't matter if you're 70 right now. It doesn't matter if you were never taught, you can still learn because you're alive. And so if you're with us today, I just want to say thank you for joining us on day number 8, where now we're going to start really getting into creative emotional intelligence and kind of where some of these ideas come from and how we can put them together. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning, 9:30 in the morning. Take care, and thank you again for being with us today.